Okay, can Donna Adelson really just escape having to pay restitution by transferring assets out of her name? That's the question I raised in my last video, and I argued she cannot do it. A lot of people in the comments told me I was wrong, that if she had transferred the assets before she was convicted, then she's okay. So I took another look at the Florida statutes, and I want to give a little bit more context, a little bit more explanation as to what is the right answer to this question. So to back up a second, the statutes are very technical, but they work as follows. If John owns a Mercedes and he says to his best friend Bob, "Hey Bob, you want my Mercedes? You can have it. Here are the keys." Gives him the Mercedes. And Bob does not give John anything back. So now John transferred an asset, his Mercedes, out of his name, and now Bob has it. So the question turns on the timing of the transfer. What do I mean by that? Okay, so a lot of people, when it comes to Donna Adelson, were saying that I was wrong, which is fine. So just tell me I'm wrong all the time. We're in this to see what is actually the law. So if Donna transferred it before she was convicted, many people argued that that would be okay and she can get out of it. Now, the issue is, if you look at the statute says, and I'm going to pull it up here because it's actually important. So give me a second. Okay. So transfers fraudulent as to present creditors. When is a transfer considered fraudulent? A transfer made or obligation incurred by a debtor is fraudulent as to a creditor whose claim arose before the transfer was made. So it's considered fraudulent if the transfer was made before the claim arose. I'm sorry, it's if the transfer was made. See, even I'm getting this mixed up. A transfer made or obligation incurred by a debtor is fraudulent as to a creditor whose claim arose before the transfer was made. The claim, meaning the right to payment, came into being before the transfer was made. And then it's fraudulent. Well, the question is, when does a claim arise? Now, I was arguing that the claim could have said to have arisen when she committed the crime, because that's what set everything into motion. Now, I was making an analogy to bankruptcy law. In bankruptcy, if let's say you breach a contract with somebody, you have an obligation to pay them or to deliver them 1,000 widgets, and you don't give them 1,000 widgets. Then that person sues you for $100,000 because he says, well, you breached this contract with me and now my damages are $100,000. So when does this claim arise? And that's the key part. It's extremely technical, so bear with me. But a claim arises when the right to payment is incurred, when the other side has the right to get money from you. It doesn't have to be a judgment. It just has to have been, something has to have happened where now they have the right to get money. So in the civil context, it happens when the contract is breached. Not when the judgment is incurred, but when the contract is breached. In restitution, it's a little bit different. And this is where the dispute was arising. Now, let's take a look at another statute which is going to explain this. This is the restitution statute. Judgment for costs of prosecution and investigation. In all criminal and violation of probation or community control cases, convicted persons are liable for payment of the cost of prosecution. So there it is. That statute says it very clearly. Convicted persons are obligated. So a state's claim to restitution arises upon conviction, not when you're charged with the crime. And therefore, since the state's claim arises on conviction, it's only if the transfer occurred after conviction. Then it's considered fraudulent. However, that's not the end of the analysis, because we have another law, another statute, which makes it even harder for Donna Adelson to get away with simply trying to get rid of her assets. Now, let's go back to that statute. This, again, back under the Florida fraudulent transfer statute, and it's section 726-105, transfers fraudulent as to present and future creditors. Okay, so the last one was transfers fraudulent as to present creditors. This one is transfers fraudulent as to present and future creditors. Now, what's the difference? A transfer made or obligation incurred by a debtor is fraudulent as to creditor. So again, when is a transfer fraudulent? Whether the creditor, in this case the state of Florida, whether the state of Florida's claim, meaning the restitution obligation, arose before or after the transfer was made, meaning that it does not even matter when the state's restitution obligation came about. It could have come about after the transfer, and it still can be fraudulent. Why? If the person made a transfer with the actual intent to hinder, delay, or defraud any current creditor of the debtor, or without receiving reasonably equivalent value in exchange for the transfer or obligation. And then there's a whole bunch of other steps you have to look at. So the point is, to wrap up, even if Donna Adelson made the transfer before she was convicted, if the state can prove that she made the transfer with the actual intent to hinder or delay or defraud the state of Florida, and she did it without receiving anything for value, then she's not off the hook, and she would still have to pay the restitution. To wrap up, what does all this mean? How do you even prove what her intent was? Well, I think with Donna Adelson, intent should not be hard to prove. The state already convicted her of first-degree murder without really a lot of direct evidence. A lot of it was circumstantial, based off other events which they used to prove her intent. So I don't think Donna Adelson should be somebody that the state of Florida will have a hard time proving her intent if it comes down to that. Does that mean the fight is over? The Adelsons, being the Adelsons, will most likely try to fight, because that's what they do. It's this pattern, again, of not taking responsibility, and everything is someone else's fault. Hopefully, there was justice in the sense that she's now in jail for crimes. Hopefully, there'll be more justice in the sense that she will not be able to escape paying the restitution. That's all for now. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope